So in today's class, we have transitioned from studying everything that has to do with the astrology, with the signs, with their characters. And of course, our language is limited to describe the subtle differences that you find when the same sign is ruled by the same sun. And I think the prime example is that both Scorpio and Aries are pioneers, are warriors, but one would be more attracted to the water, one would be more attracted to the land. So I think that this is one of the ways to highlight the energy of the subtle differences between and within the elements. All right, so in order to move forward, the first thing that we have to do is kind of start with interpretation, right? Today, you are going to start looking at charting. Now, it needs to be said that next week, you guys are going to look at charting in a completely different way, because you're going to look at it from the Abrahamic astrology perspective. But for tonight, you need to study what the different houses in the cosmos represent. Now, I want you to look up at the sky tonight, tomorrow night, and I want you to imagine that the sky, this huge big blackness that goes 360 around you, not just the 180 on top of you, the 360 around you is going in a way, you need this? Yeah. Is going in a way that is 360 around you, and each one of these 12 houses is divided like that. So it's like a 360 divided into 12 houses, right? So today we're going to study what these 12 houses are. All right, so the first thing that you need to look at, let's take a closer look at that. Okay. All right, so these are the 12 houses, right? And I've tried to get a chart off the internet that kind of has the elements with it, the symbols within it, and the planets. So this is a really good chart, respectively, for you to understand what is going on in the cosmos. So the first thing that you see in the middle of this chart is the sun, right? That's the first thing that you will see. It's the sun, all right, in the very middle. And everything else is about how that sun rotates, right? How the planets are rotating around the sun. In the next sphere out, you will see the housing numbers, right? You will see how the numbers are housed. So of course, it's going to start with Aries and it's going to end in Pisces, right? Okay. In the outer circle, you're going to see three things. You're going to see the sign, the planet, like the symbol of the sign, the planet, and you're also going to see sometimes two planets, because certain signs in mainstream astrology have two ruling planets, which are Pluto and Neptune and Uranus. If you remember, in our astrology, these three planets were not mentioned because they are not considered to hold a very substantial value in Abrahamic astrology. They enhance the other ones, but they don't themselves hold substantial value. All right? Now, taking a look at the rest of the chart, you will notice that you have the names of the signs that are ruling each of the respective houses. And for the lack of anything else, the light blue is air, the red is fire, the earth is green, and the water is blue. All right? So this chart, if anything, if you have a picture memory, like a a memory that is picture. You need to learn this off by heart. For charting purposes, this is your blueprint, right? This is your blueprint. All right. Now, going further, yeah. Okay. By the way, these are gonna be literally, okay. Now, the problem, let me see if I can make this bigger. Okay. Yeah.
All the later 6 signs shown to planets?
Yes, because they're further out in creation. The Pluto is really, really far out in creation. So yes, it would only hit the later signs. Yes. Okay, so this one is really small and there's nothing I can do about that, but I will go through them with you so that you understand what they are. So house number 1 is, I'm going to read and then we will discuss. All right. I think that's the easiest way because I cannot possibly make that bigger for you. Okay. So house number 1, which starts, you can see where 1 starts. Yeah. Okay. So where Aries is self, appearances, beginning, the body, first impression, attitude, identity, and approach to life. This is literally, again, Aries, right? The energy that you are born with, very physical, very bodily, very attached to the self. You're always thinking about in the formation of your identity. All right? House number 2 is very particular because house number 2, it's money, and there's another house which has money, but this is money that you are born into, right? Born into. And here some astrologers say, oh, it's the money of your life. Some astrologers say, no, it's money that you inherit, right? Or the status of your family. I like to say it's both combined, right? It's the amount of money that you have brought in from a past life, from karma, from whatever it is, but it is not money that you can potentially open the gates for that you will earn. The money that you will earn by merit, by work, by a decision, by restriction, all of these things are later on looked at. So it's money. It's money, right? It's money, work, income, daily routines, values, material possessions, priorities, habits, your job, and your work ethics. All right. But why is this this is very interesting. We speak a lot about the material possessions and the physical possessions, yet, and it's talking about work and work ethics and values and etc. But at the same time, we're kind of saying, well, this is not money that you have earned. It's money that you have brought with you. Why? Because this type of consciousness that you're, you know, what shapes your habits, your environment, your identity, what shapes your routines, the way that you were disciplined, the way that you were raised. All of these things are kind of predestined, right? That is the reason, right? Because if you have a very organized mom, you're going to be someone who likes routine and is organized and is structured. Okay. 3, the mind, thinking, communication, siblings, social activity, interests, neighbors, and early education. All right. So house number 3 is your early life, right? Like what you're born into, the dynamics that you're born into in early life. And it's, again, the energy of Gemini, which is how you're going to begin these interactions. Because what is Gemini? It's communication. It's interaction. So this you have to look to remember it. 3rd house, you're a toddler. Remember, toddlers are up to 3 years. You're a toddler. We're not talking about toddlers here, but you're a kind of a toddler, and it's all the experiences that you're going to accumulate in relations to the others, the communications. All right.
Just why your neighbors, do they represent other things?
Yeah, like your siblings create who you are as a character, the way that you communicate, the way, look, the way that you get things in life is determined by the hierarchy you have in the house, right? So the firstborn always feel is like they're entitled, the blessings are theirs, they're, you know, the younger one always has something to prove, they're always the louder, right? And the middle has an identity crisis. He gets all the crap from, you know, he's taken the leftovers of the first one, and the only child, by the way, the only child is something that spiritually is very interesting, because only children get a lot of attention and they're said to be selfish and spoiled and etc. But there's also another phenomenon that happens. There's a lot of expectations on them, and that sort of breaks them more, because kind of nobody else is there. Yeah, you must be buffer, right? All the learning curve, all the inadequacies, everything kind of just falls on them. So yes, there are beautiful experiences that come from being an only child, keeping your jewelry, keeping the money, keeping, you know, the parent is yours, you can emotionally blackmail them on every level, but with that comes a price as well, and that price is literally you being over flooded too much in excess of everything. All right. House number 4 is home, your roots, family, self-care, emotions, foundations, mother, children, women, and femininity. This is Cancer, right? We're looking mostly at the things that are feminine, which have to relate to the mother, to your roots, to who you are, to Malchut again, right? How you care for yourself, how you care for your body, your emotions, your children, all of these things at different stages in life. All right. Then you have house number 5, which is the house of Leo, is romance, love, affairs, play, creativity, fertility, childlike spirit, joy, self-expression, and of course, drama, right? So,
hi, everyone.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
All right. So again, here we're looking at house number 5, and this is the Leo fiery energy. And you begin to see that kind of the first 4 houses are shaping a human being. And the first instance in which you see the shaping of the fakeness, right, is the Leo, right? Look at Leo. Leo is romance, love, affairs, play, creativity, fertility, the childlike spirit, right? All of these things, the joy, the self-expression, the drama. Now, this is not your true identity. These are variables, right? These are expansions. This is how you expand into the world, right? So begin to look at the broader picture of things when it comes to you know, house number 5. And again, I don't mean to say Leos are bad. I'm a Leo, but the beginning of the expression of something that is not so tangible, that can be corrected, replaced, fixed, is in house number 5. All right?
That's not the only correction.
No, that's the only correction. But this is the start, right? Because everything prior is kind of predetermined. Your siblings, ما فيك تغيري في شيء, right? You exactly, right? These are things that you don't change, but that is the beginning of character formation.
Are you sharing the screen, Jana? Because I don't see anything.
Yeah, I'm sharing the screen, but hold on, maybe. Okay, share screen. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
We're okay now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then you've got house number 6, which is health, fitness, systems, analytical nature, pets, working habits, organization, sense of usefulness, and service given. Now, look at how this house number 6 is overlapping with house number 2, right? Like it's very close if you're looking at it. But in reality, in house number 6, these are things that you're now acquiring, while in house number 2 is how you inherited, right? So again, when you're interpreting a chart, make sure that if it's things that are in house 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, that you're kind of still like, these are okay and accept them. Beginning with house number 5, things that are not okay, that don't serve the purpose of the person, you can then begin to give advice that, you know, maybe it's better if you were not so dramatic about this, right? But if someone is in their nature, no point as an astrologer to go and be like, oh, change your nature, or it's your parents' fault, or things like this, right? This is not the point of it, right? Okay, so house number 6 is your health, your fitness, the systems. All of these are the things that you acquire, right, throughout time. All right, house number 7. All right, and this is now the house of Libra. Now, the house of Libra is where we begin to look for marriage, right? House number 7 is the house of marriage. So it's relationships, marriage, contracts, business partnerships, equality, sharing, and interpersonal style. So we notice that everything that has to do with Libra has one more thing added to it, right? It's who else is coming into this equation? Where am I going to find that balance, right? So again, while there is this thing about people like that look at house number 7 and then they're like, oh, but I have no planets there. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're not getting married or you have no partnerships. That's not what that means. We'll talk about that later on. But understanding that everything that has to do with house number 7 is kind of with another, right? With another. Because, you know, Libras are not so, like the scales need balance, right? Okay. House number 8, which is Scorpio, right, is merging, sex, intimacy, shared finances, inheritance, taxes, loans, assets, property, joint ventures, goals, mystery, and partners' resources. Now, if you notice that the energy of Scorpio is kind of a mixture of assets, acquiring, and loss, right? That's what it is, right? It's like a kind of a battley energy of between what is being acquired and what you lose, because this is not the money that you have in your life or your kismat or your inheritance. Even though it says inheritance, this is money that you kind of earn, right? This is money that you kind of earn through work, through restrictions, through a variety of things. All right, then we go into Saggy, which is travel, wisdom, philosophy, higher education, law and religion, cross-cultural relations, and learning ethics. All right, so again, the energy of Saggy is one of expansion, one of travel, the mystery, etc. This is usually a house where you look at someone who is going to leave their home, right? This is something that you can look at, someone who's going to leave their home, especially in the early years. If someone is going to travel, to study, this is the house that you need to be looking at. All right. After Sagittarius comes Capricorn. And Capricorn is career, long-term goals, structure, status, reputation, public image, masculinity, men, fathers, experts, and fame, right? So everything that requires a rigid system, everything that requires a lot of hard work, something that requires a long-term vision, that's in Capricorn, right? And the status of Capricorn needs to be, as an astrologer, it is a very important house, because if you're looking at someone who's you know, house of Capricorn is not so stable, or there are planets that are doing funny things and funny conjunctions, that's not a good thing, because it means that this person will not achieve a legacy in this lifetime. It means that they will not build something substantial in this lifetime, right? And that's very dangerous. And these are things that we need to look at for Looking at house number 11, which is obviously the Aquarius, groups, friends, social awareness, humanitarianism, technology, hopes, wishes, and the future. By the way, in this house, it gets very overlooked, very, very overlooked, because it's kind of like what your friends and family, you won't pay an astrologer to look at your friends, right? To tell me like, my best friend or whatever. But in reality, you need to examine this house really, really, really well, because it tells you deeply about the hopes of the person, the deeper, deeper hopes, right? What they truly hope for, right? Inside themselves, right? So don't overlook that, especially, you know, Capricorn and Aquarius are very good together. So make sure that you're looking at them as house 10 and 11 as partners. I usually look at them as a partner, because if I'm looking, again, this is subjective from my experience, I've realized that if you're looking at someone and their life vision is not very clear, and you know, they don't have a stable fame or structure, usually, again, if you look at their friends, they're also very unhappy with their friends, and they don't have a clear wish list. So by fixing the wish list, right, kind of you're helping correct house number, right? Or you're giving positive energy to house number 10. Endings. So Pisces, it's about spirituality, solitude, karma, old age, the afterlife, what's hidden, limiting beliefs, the subconscious, and it's about healing. Now, again, here, I want to highlight something about Pisces. Pisces in this instance is kind of the end of a person's life, right? And their spiritual status. Now, for some people, I remember that, you know, when I first started studying spirituality, and I was like, the first time, so I was 14 when I started studying Kabbalah. I remember that maybe a year later or something, I had done my first astrology chart, where someone was reading my chart for me. And I remember very clearly that a lot of my planets were in house number 12. And for me, I was like, you know, I didn't know astrology, but even the person reading the chart is like, it almost looks like you're dying, right? Because it's the afterlife. But basically, it meant that the aspects, that the cycle that I had been through was a complete cycle, and that was the beginning of the journey into what is known as the afterlife, right? Again, I'm not trying to big myself up. That's not the point. But the point is, relatively, 14 is regarded as, I mean, of course, Rav Yehuda Ashlag and the Ari recommend that you start studying the wisdom at the age of 6. But at that time, there was no one at the age of 6 that had started studying. I was literally the youngest person to start studying, and like on deep levels, like the Zohar and etc. So you have to look at it as if that's the end of the journey, as if I almost came. Everybody has a tikkun, but I don't know how to explain it. But you just have to think about it, that if there are a lot of planets in Pisces, or if something is happening in Pisces, right? If there are a lot of things happening in Pisces, it means this is something for later on, or the spiritual life. All right, questions. Now, Wasim, can you set the fact that I changed the chart?
Yes, I have the new one.
All right, this one, this is kind of like your go-to. This you need to know like by heart, right? And this you kind of need to know not by heart, مش بالضرورة, بس you need to know what each of the two represents. So let's take a look at, I'm trying to ease it up for you. If this is not helpful, then don't worry about it. But 12 is usually divided by, you know, of 3 equal 4s, right? And we have 4 elements. Exactly. So maybe take a look at 1 to 3 as the early onset start of the journey of what shapes a man. 4 to 6, you can take a look at their habits, the people in their life, how they're gonna, the environment that he's in. Again, if this is not helpful, it doesn't have to be. Start looking at 7 to 9 as a kind of what he acquires in life, right? Through relationships, love, the mistakes they make, etc. And take a look at 10 to 12, almost their older afterlife, right? If that's helpful for you to remember them. Because as an astrologer, no one's going to sit there going, is it in house 11 or is it in house 12? That's not realistically what's going to happen. So if you don't know and you're a beginner astrologer and something is going on in that, you know, quadrant, yeah, if something is going on in that quadrant, right, then, sorry, just excuse me. If something is going on in that quadrant, then you can just refer to it as that area of the life, and based on the planet, guess what it is, right?
So it's a timeline?
It's a timeline, yes. And by the way, there's a trick here, right? If you look up at the sky, realistically speaking, these lines don't exist, right? These lines don't exist. So when, as a good astrologer, you are most welcome, right? You are most welcome to guess things based on where they are. Let's use a practical example. Venus is the planet of love, right? Venus is the planet of love. And Venus is kind of the planet of money, the feminine, and an interaction with the feminine. And let's say that you find, I'm not going to put it for you in the relationships part because that will be too easy. Let's put it in house number 11. Let's put it in that quadrant, which is between 10 to 12, right? So is it logical? Like, just answer, like, be practical. Is it logical that that you're gonna find and earn your living in your afterlife?
No.
No. So where are you most likely to find love and career and money? Somewhere between the structure and the friends. So then you can say things like, well, after a long time, because this is, and you've built yourself up, you will find love at, towards the end of that tunnel. And it could possibly be within your friends, your circle of your friends, and your social life and your social network. Does that make sense?
Jana,
Again,
can we
yes.
can we see this also as a year cycle?
Yes, this can be, we'll talk about now the year cycles. بس لحظة هلا رح اشرح شيء بس for interpretation purposes. But do we understand this?
Okay.
Yes, yes. 9 to 11, 10 to 12.
Yeah.
أنا فكرت the line of thought is correct. إنه مثلا you will find love in a spiritual circle or within
You can say that.
older age.
You can say all these things are an indication that yes. Why? Because it's in the last quadrant. You can say things like, again, هون بتجي your intuition, your interpretation, the bigger picture. Because if the person has no touch of spirituality, and there's nothing here indicating anything that's, you know, بيزرزعه to seek spirituality, then he might not become spiritual, right? He might just become attached. So here you have to look at much more things. But yes, you are right, Maya, in the question of, can I say that he's going to find his love in a spiritual circle? Yes. Let's take a look at the rest of the chart. Okay. Now, this cycle that you're looking at, going back to this, is many cycles in reality. When you're doing a natal chart, which is the birthday and and you're looking at the overview of the character, you do the interpretation as we just did right now. Yeah, which is your early life, your middle life, your adult life, and your afterlife. لحظة قبل ما تحركوهم، ما دقيقة رح تحركوهم بس دقيقة. Okay, so that's like the big picture of your life. But this is also an annual cycle. So it is recommended for a person to get what is known as a progression chart, which is different from a natal chart. Natal chart is kind of أول consultation. Progression chart is the continuations, like when he comes to visit you for progress, right? In the progression chart, you begin to look at this as rotations, how the houses are rotating in progression every year, because this is an annual cycle.
So this is fixed, and the progression, houses and location from missions.
Exactly. All right. So does that answer your question, Wasim?
Yes, progression chart, but I didn't understand properly
The
how
difference.
how the cycles are moving. Sorry, the houses are moving.
The houses, okay, the planets within the houses are moving. يعني بدكم تتخيلوا، بدي أورجيك how do you do this? Like, how can you see like my arrow moving?
Yeah, I see your cursor.
Okay, so okay, it's this that's moving. Okay, these planets here that are moving.
Okay. The planets are
The
moving
planets
into
are
different
moving from house to
horoscopes.
house.
Okay.
Okay. Now there are astrologers، ما هيدا هو الشيء اللي هون بدكم تفهموا انه there are schools of astrology. There are astrologers that move the houses. Okay, move the houses and move the signs. There is no problem with that. There is no problem with that measurement. The only problem with that measurement is that your progression becomes very difficult to detect. You're constantly almost doing a natal chart reading every time. And you cannot look at the past lesson to forward it into the future. فهمتوا علي؟ Let me give an example. Forget planets, forget planets, okay? Forget this. خليني أعطيك إياها visually on another plane. The signs are the people, right? Forget, and the planets are the friends of the people, right? The money of the people. The planets are the money of the people. And the houses are their houses. Okay? Now, you can move the person and you can move their source of income. They can live in Paris, they can live in Lebanon, they can dress a certain way, they can change. But you can measure how far they have come because you know where they're from. The stable point, which is the house. Exactly. Now, if you say, I'm going to move the house and the person and their source of income, you cannot measure. There is no way in hell that you can measure, okay, where that person came from to measure their progress. Now, I am not with that school of thought. You can be with that school of thought, and it's accurate, and there are many people that are like that. Personally, I'm not with that school of thought for 3 reasons. The first reason being is that in spirituality, we notice a phenomenon that there's always fixed, something that's constant and something that rotates. So in Abrahamic philosophy, the creator is always there, always stagnant, always giving. He's the fixed, and we're just rotating, right? Like we're the vessel, we change, we want, we don't want, we grow, transform. So that's reason number 1, and it's the prime reason that I don't go with that theory. All right? So, and that's the Allahu Akbar saying like, yeah, that's true. The second reason is because in Abrahamic astrology, we are here to learn, grow, and transform. And life doesn't have a destination. It doesn't have a real purpose. You're literally here on a journey, right? Journeying from the creator to the creator. If I cannot measure my journey, I don't know where I was and I don't know where I'm going, potentially this could be like, what am I measuring? يعني شو جاي يتقل لي؟ شو رح يصير ب3 أشهر؟ مروق بدنا نعرف. All right? The third reason is psychologically, most of the times the way that we interact with difficult situations is based on the past. And if I cannot tell what happened in your past, I cannot give you the correct advice for the future. يعني إذا تنفترض رح أعطي شيء. If you are to find love, but that love is going to be turbulent. If I don't know that you have been raped, and I'm giving a very strong example. If you've been raped, I can give you more practical advice, like seek therapy. It's going to be turbulent, but it's going to be fine in the end. But suddenly أنا أطلع فيك وأقول لك it's a turbulent relationship, and you know it's gonna be turbulent. Not knowing the fact that you've been raped could completely say turbulent relationship. No, thank you. فهمتوا علي؟ يعني the advice هلا. Of course, I'm going to say this because I have to justify my standpoint. If I didn't have the standpoint, I wouldn't. But again, you can research more into the rotation of the houses and decide which one suits you better. Questions? Yeah.
So when I'm born, I have these houses for a year, for 12 months.
No, in the natal chart reading, no, I can see how the cosmos, بدك تتخيلي هيك. انت خلقتي and there was a beam of light that was coming towards you. There was $1 million that was just chucked at you, right? What you're going to do with the $1 million is spread in the story of your life, which is the natal chart. Now, in the first year, in a progression chart reading where the houses are stable, I can tell how much of this $1 million are you going to do and what you're going to do with it.
Okay, so
يعني بهلا أول سنة رح تقبضي $1000.
بس هيدا natal, that's my potential. But how it works out
by day is in the progress.
How do the progression part changes? Does it change whenever I change my free will? I exercise my free will?
Both. It changes astrologically, right? Like,
Bound to change.
yeah, because the planets are moving. So it's bound to change. Also, it changes when you perform a huge level of restriction. And I think it's very beautifully demonstrated in his only son, when Abraham does this like really big restriction. And if you see what they showed, actually, they showed the stars shift. They're like, change your name, change your destiny. That was what they were saying. Because when the creator was saying, I think the person who did this movie has really studied the mystical understanding as well as the story of Abraham, because when you look at what it was portraying from a wisdom perspective, he told him, he started shape-shifting the star in an irregular pattern, saying, Abraham, you've now changed your destiny. Now you shall be called. So he changed his name, and he changed the name of Sarah and gave him a completely alternative. But guys, again, this is very rare to happen. Most of the time, you're under the influence of the stars. And the reason you need to study astrology is that so that you can rise above the influence of the stars, which is when you restrict. And by the way, I've said this before, and I think that this is a really breakthrough in the way that it's being said. Maybe it was known before, but it's bullshit to think that you're exercising your free will when you don't know. Free will comes with knowledge. So when the church, this is the first time I'm actually going to speak against religious people, when they say study of astrology, you need to tatawakkali ala Allah and not know, that's not exercising free will. That's actually you being a victim to the situation because you don't know how to react. While if you know what's coming, you now make a conscious decision of which path to choose. Whether you're going to choose good, evil, fear, love, whatever it is, right? So yeah, and even like, you know, the theory of like, oh yeah, in marriage, if you know, well, yeah, if I know I'm going to get married, now I'm going to choose whether I want to get married or not get married, right? Whether that now, like, am I going to get married or am I not going to get married? إنه هلا عايشة أنا بدوامي متوكلة على الله, right? This up, please now.
Did you guys talk already about ascendant and descendant or not yet?
No, not yet. You didn't miss much, by the way, because we started like 10 minutes late. Okay, questions before we move on?
So to recap, the planets are moving into different signs, and the signs are can also move, right, into different houses.
The signs don't move because the signs are the houses. Like, look at where they are. They are the houses themselves. But yes, in certain astrology can move, yes.
Ah, okay. In certain astrology. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. House 1 represents, for example, the initial image of the person.
Yeah.
It represents Aries, but it does not have the attributes of Aries.
No, it doesn't have the attributes of Aries.
It just represents what Aries represents.
Yes, very powerful question. Yes, the house number 1 represents the child, the initial, but it doesn't have the energy of Aries, right? It just has that representation of that sign. Yes, because you could be a Leo. If إذا هيك ساعتها كلنا بنخلق Aries, right?
So it just helps us to understand to remember what the house is about.
Exactly.
Depending on what planet was there at the time they were born, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, moving on. If you were looking at a progression chart, هلا انسوا natal chart, which is the big picture of life. هلا عم نطلع على progression chart. Okay? A progression chart, the sun is changing every 30 days. Okay? Mercury is changing every 14 days. It's shifting houses every 14 days. So إذا عم تسألوا السؤال, it's changing houses. That's what this means, okay? Venus is moving every 23 days. Moon is changing every 2.25 days. Mars is changing every 40 days. Jupiter is changing every 1 year. And Saturn changes every 2.5 years. So practically speaking, إذا شي خبرية عاطلة جاي لعند واحد be his financial house. Okay? It's going to impact him for 14 days. But if Saturn hits his financial house, it's going to impact him for 2.5 years. Does that make sense? So you need to know this, because when you're interpreting and Mars enters somewhere, the person is going to have instability for 40 days. Right? He's going to have instability for 40 days.
So the planets are just time frames, or do they represent meaning as well?
No, they have meanings which we have studied, right? Their energy has meanings, each one of them. But this is the duration of the impact in the chart, in the progression chart.
And we can predict Mercury where it's going to go next.
Yeah.
Every individual, you can predict where it's
Yeah. If your software is good, yes, you can predict it, yes. Okay. Questions?
Can you give us a practical example? Oh, you just did actually, for the money.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
Now, these are things you need to know, and these become technical, and this is where it becomes difficult, all right? But you need to know something. The moment you learn the symbols, you're good to go, okay? You don't learn the symbols, you're going to spend the rest of your life reading. It's like going to a doctor, right? He either knows the organs and the pulses, or he sat there looking at an anatomy book, right? It doesn't make him a bad doctor, just, you know, the type of learning that he has experienced. All right. So, on the chart, going back to this, there are ways that the planets are situated in the reading, and you will see what that looks like. But there are ways that the planets are situated, right? Angling each other. What that means, I want you to get a visual. Let's say I'm shining a beam of light, and I'm going to do the... أعطيني your torch شوي بس بدي أورجيكم شو الفكرة. Okay. وسيم أنت شايفني؟
Yes, I see you.
Okay. Right. مايا بس توقفي هون دقيقة بس please. Okay. I want you to get a visual and for you to understand this. These are two planets, right? This one and this one. This one is a smooth surface, so light is traveling on it smoothly. This one is a rough surface. So let's say these two planets are now like this, right? Just, I want you to shine the light directly through them. All right. This is the sun, allegedly, right? The energy that's coming. And this is the receiver. You, Wasim, is the receiver. Now, the quantity of light that you're experiencing is completely different, right? Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, I see it. I see it. So
okay. So now this planet is blocking your view, right? And this planet, kind of, if it releases in its rotation, there could be no blockages, right? I could be here and that. Mafshi. All right?
yes.
The same thing, these are what are known as conjunctions. How the planets are filtering out the light that's coming. You know, for the next course, I'm going to probably prepare something more practically visual for this. It's a good idea. But does it make sense? It's like, how is the light coming in through these planets? Yeah? And how that's impacting you. So the way that is measured is through these studies, through these angles. Each angle impacts us differently, right? So Honi, this is the study of the angles rather than the energies of the planets. All right. So the first one is a conjunction, and you see the symbol right next to it, because if you If you don't know what a conjunction looks like on the chart, it's okay. It gives you the summary at the bottom. It tells you conjunction Saturn with Venus. It actually says that word with that symbol, right? So don't worry about it. A conjunction is when two different planets link up together in the same sign, meaning that Saturn and Venus are now together in, I don't know, in house number 5, okay? This hyper-focused aspect, which occurs when two planets are 0 degrees apart, meaning that they've completely aligned, right? It's as if they're inseparable. Blend the qualities of the 2 or more planets. Sometimes this conjunction can be multiple planets. And by the way, at the birth of Jesus, Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus were at conjunction. That was what, and you could, like, I don't know if you guys remember it, the same conjunction happened about 1.5 years or 2 years ago when we went to Baalbek to see it, right? Yes. And you could see like Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, just in one line, you turn 180 and you see the Star of Bethlehem, which is exactly the same star which was there at the birth of Jesus, right? So these things are powerful occurrences, right? So link up together in the same sign. This hyper-focused aspect, which occurs when two planets are 0 degrees apart, blends the qualities of the 2 or more planets and takes their combined energy in the particular sign that's sharing extra intense. هون في شغلة لازم تتذكروها. Are the planets intensifying themselves and feeding each other? No. Who are they intensifying? The sign, right? So they are now, so even, let's give an example. Saturn and Mars go into the house of Taurus. There is no Venus, right? They amplify the qualities of Taurus, right? Not the qualities of Libra and Taurus. They only amplify Taurus because they're in the house of Taurus. Well done. If the qualities of the planets involved work well together and get along with each other, it can be a great aspect. Full of potential, high energy, and action. This is an action-driven alignment. But if the planets don't get along so well or bring heavier, more challenging vibes, then being trapped in a small cosmic space together can cause some discord or amplify the dark feels, right? The dark feelings. And that's clear. Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, clear.
Okay. Sextile. All right, as with everything that's sex-related, this easy aspect is fun, full of good vibes. So this you can remember, yeah? Sex and fun goes well together. Full of good vibes and undoubtedly positive. A sextile is a friendly and flirty aspect between signs that are 60 degrees apart. Are these planets? Exactly. Usually they occur between fire and air signs and earth and water signs, right? With a sextile, the sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and the situations at hand are happy ones. It's a nice break from the stress that other transits can bring and can offer us a nice opportunity to chill. The only downside to a sextile aspect is that it's not the most action-oriented, all right? So don't expect it to bring the energy for major shifts. The energy of planets forming a sextile is usually easy and compatible. And so it doesn't tend to bring much drama to a situation. Now here, there's an interesting part because there is the aspect of the planet. You also have to look at the houses, how they're interacting. And now you have to look at the planets, what they're doing. But usually it's almost like fun, nice, chill, but nothing in it. Yes, this is more feelings and more thoughts, depending on the person. All right. Trines formed by a 120-degree angle on the chart. They are generally considered the best and most auspicious aspects of them all, bringing luck, harmony, major synchronicity, and potential for positive changes. The simplest way to understand a trine is understanding the elements. And this is again why we study the elements in Abrahamic astrology, because the other ones you don't study the internal and external. Actually, in mainstream astrology, there's only the external, while in Abrahamic astrology, there's the internal. So, and this is the reason why we study those. The simplest way to understand the trine is understanding the elements. A trine occurs when planets, same element, fire, earth, air, and water, aspect each other. When planets are working within the signs of the same element, they naturally get each other's motives, making their energies easy to work with. Trines are positive aspects that produce positive outcome. All right? The only issue is that they can be a little lazy in achieving their goals. The easy, like Sunday morning good vibes, only flow off a trine can sometimes result in our energy being a little too at ease. So the biggest mistake we can make with a trine is simply not taking enough initiative because we're too busy basking in the glow of the good vibes. Trines are to be taken advantage of, not slept on. So don't let these auspicious cosmic moments slip through your fingers. All right? So what is the advice when someone has a trine in their chart? What is the advice?
Take action.
Take action, right? Take action. Very good.
The trines, are they more important in progressive charts? Yes, they should be.
Yes. By the way, all these alignments that you're now studying, conjunction, sextile, trine, these are very important in progression because these are how they are impacting in a duration of time. But in the big picture of things, كله رح يشفت وشفت. Exactly.
What about the previous ones? Like we didn't talk about the elements. This is the only one that talks about the elements so far.
لأنه بيكون ما في يعني بالسكستايل that's not the angles at which they are hitting. في وحدات they hit signs, elements, and the planets. So they don't have to be in all three. They don't have to work on all three levels.
Okay, noted.
Okay, square. This is dramatic. Get ready for a little bit of cosmic drama because just like the shape itself, a square aspect is a choke full of hard angles, sharp corners. So caution is advised. Actually, this is being very polite, right? Square, you see a square on the chart, no, it's like لقصة لضحككم شوي لقصة. So سكروا هالشارت وقولوا له توكل على الله. باي باي. روح ابحث لك شيء قبل. No, I'm kidding. I just wanted to laugh. It's a bit too serious today. All right. So aspect is a choke full of angles and sharps, so caution is advised. A square is an intense aspect which often indicates action. Contrary to their reputation, squares are not necessarily bad. Yes, they are. They just show that work will be involved in producing the favored outcome. Okay, the guy's positive. I like. Yes. So rigidity, action is like a lot of action, a lot of effort is required. But, like a square, I always think square, it's the same square you have on the rock when you die. It helps me. Like sextile, sex, it's fun, right? Conjunction, aslan mahfuz. The Holy Trinity, this is like good. You have to make things, at least it works for me, making them things that, resonate. Considered one of the decidedly hard aspects of 90, a square is bound to produce tension between the planets involved and energies. But a little tension can be helpful sometimes. This aspect simply illuminates a stressful situation that can be resolved with compromise and effort. وانتبهوا هون, these are the key words. In a square, you need to understand that something has got to give. Whoever has the square is at the losing end. So do not advise to enter the battle. There is a time when Queen Elizabeth I, right? The Spanish were coming to, I don't remember the exact historical moment, but she went to an astrologer and he said to her, you have a square coming up, right? On land, right? So you have a square coming up on land. and that's it, right? Like, right. And he said to her, you could potentially just literally lose the kingdom. That's what it was up to. That is what the compromise means. يعني لما نقول هيدول الشغلات, don't think of them as small things. They are generally big things, right? So at that time, Queen Elizabeth I, that was the courageous move. And you can check this historically. She set sail for Spain the very next morning so that she can attack Spain in water before they arrived to British shores. Because what was the square indication? A square was coming up in 1 week on land. So she شو راحت عملت؟ استبقت الموضوع. قالت لك قبل ما ياكلوني خليني اكلهم. It was the toughest battle and she did win, but actually there were a lot of great losses that eventually came. And you need to know something, that actually from a perspective, still, there are still astrologers that say, well, actually, Queen Elizabeth did win, but with Queen Elizabeth I, the Tudors ended, the line of Tudors ended. She actually was not successful. The monarchs now are not the Tudors, are not actually them. So the question is, did she really win at water, or was that simply the go, like هي خسرت وخسرت? So that's really the question that one has to ask. So I gave this example. Of course, not everybody is Queen Elizabeth, but I want you to understand that in these situations, you need to let the person know that there is a compromise. شو يعني compromise? And if he's something that's gonna end for you, right? By putting in the work and resisting the urge to be stubborn, again, don't be stubborn and holding on. Let it go. The faster you let it go, the quicker the next thing comes, right? The square aspect can be an opportunity to find a resolution to an issue, even if it's challenging to do so. All right? Next. Opposition. When planets are fully opposite each other on the zodiac wheel, angling at 180. So هون عم نطلع على الويل ككل. Okay, مش exactly. All right, angling at 180. هل خليني أسألكم سؤال. If it's 190, is it the same energy?
It's close.
It's very close. Yeah. So give a margin, a non for the change to occur is anything above 20. يعني مثلا 162, you're still regarding it as 180. Like there's an interpretation of the 180. An opposition occurs when two planets are in opposing signs, meaning they're found on opposite sides of the axis. And in oppositions, planets can find themselves butting heads. With the whole zodiac wheel between two opposing planets, they're as far apart in the chart can be. And because the two types of energies feel so distant and foreign to one another, this aspect can make it difficult for them to come together in harmony. Their wants, needs, and ideas may feel just as polar as their placement. That said, it's not all bad. Opposites attract, remember? So by seeking a balance between the planet's energies and trying to work symbiotically, there's a potential for us to make an opposition run smoothly. Now, this is an important thing to understand, because when and if someone does ask you for a compatibility chart, you're putting the two natal charts on top of each other and looking for oppositions. It's as simple as that. ما حدا يقولكم لا وانا رح اشوف لك اذا بتطلعوا مصاري مبلغ. This you cannot tell. This astrologers cannot predict. By the way, any astrologer that tells you I can predict how much money a couple is going to make, they're lying. They cannot predict that. The only thing that they can predict is the harmony between the planets. And the way that they do that, they bring the two natal charts, put them together, and look for opposing planets.
They can know their success individually.
Yes, individually, yes, but together, no. عرفتي علي؟
Is this why in soulmates? It's not an easy dynamic.
It's not an easy dynamic, exactly, because you're looking at oppositional planets. And in the recommendation of opposition is that you need to bind them together. That's the long-term vision of these kind of alignments. Okay? All right. So what we're going to do now, okay, which is kind of which is something that you guys should have done last week, but I didn't send you the questions. We're going to have a small discussion in which I am going to throw info at you without Google, Wasim, and actually I don't think you can Google it. I want you to give me interpretations. Okay, بلا ما تطلعوا على chart قبل الشارت قبل كل شيء. Okay, بس هيك info. All right. By the way, and Maya yesterday suggested that I mention this. You need to know something. The reason why all the time, if you notice how much I'm drilling, don't look at the chart, don't look at the chart, don't look at the chart. And I'm very grateful to Maya because yesterday she helped me actually put it into words. You need to know something. In Abrahamic astrology, or from our lineage, no one ever charted, right? Charting is a software mechanism that was developed newly by the West. Not even in original Ayurvedic astrology, the system of charting exists. And the easiest way to explain this is to understand this. Time is a natural phenomenon. The rotation of the planets is a natural phenomenon, right? The clock, right, which is the watch, it's measuring that, right? It's measuring the time as it's passing. But the clock is not 100% accurate, by the way, just so you know. That's why we have additional hours, additional days. That's why we change the time from time to time, and the Easterns and the Westerns and the Bihbiri and Miati, sometimes they change and sometimes they don't change. Okay? So I unfortunately have to teach you how to chart, because now you need the clock in order to tell what time it is. But you need to understand there was a time when there was no clock and people could look up at the sky and based on the shadows could tell what the time is. Does that make sense? I just want to make sure that that makes sense. And I want to take you as a teacher, I want to take you as far up to no charting as I possibly can, because unfortunately, in all truth is, I cannot teach you this without charting. I don't know how. And in all humbleness, I don't think anyone else can, right? Maybe, you know, maybe Ibn al-Arabi can, but I can't, right? So unless you have a direct connection to somehow resurrect Ibn al-Arabi, right? Then, you know, good for you. If you don't, then you have to chart. But my personal goal, which shouldn't reflect on you in any way, is to take you as far up as possible without charting and to introduce the charting in the last possible stage that you can. Does that make sense in the case of the charting?
Perfectly.
Okay. All right. So we'll gradually make the questions harder. I'm going to have my tea and relax. And I'm going to throw one question at each one of you simultaneously. And you guys can say the interpretation. If one of you opposes the other, say why. Okay? All right. So the first question is Sun in house 12. All right? Let me make it easy, Haram, for you. I'm not going to make it this difficult for you. I think Haram alayhi. Okay? Okay. Okay. I'm going to give you this. All right?
But I can't read that.
Is
Okay,
it a
do you want-
progression chart or a natal chart?
Let's start with natal chart because natal charts are easy. Okay? Or actually, no, even better. Maya can state natal, Wasim can state progression, and then you switch. Okay? All right. So Sun in house 12.
The sun is the Leo, and Leo was the starting of the development of the character.
Yeah.
It was fake love, it was fake romance, correct? Fake appearances, and I cannot read it from here. So if the sun is in Pisces,
Yeah.
which is spirituality and it was endings, then I would say that the delusions and illusions of that person might be ending.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
delusional. Allah.
You're delusional, Allah. Okay.
What else about the Leo? But I have a question because there are certain things about this. No. About this, certain things about Leo that are not in this house.
Give you certain things in
مثلا Leo is a pusher, new ideas,
Yeah.
conqueror. They're not in
Yes.
this house, correct?
Yeah, they're not in this house.
Okay, so yeah. If it's sun is in Pisces, then the end of these illusions.
Okay. All right. Wasim, you are progression.
Yeah, progression.
Okay.
So I would say the ending is gonna be maybe a difficult one.
All right.
Uh,
Let's. Okay, go.
we can also say because you said like Leo has a lot of anger, right? To overcome as a
Yeah.
sign. We can say that maybe you would have to resolve things at the end. Your anger, maybe. I'm doing progression here. Wait. So this would be on December, right? Number 12.
Yeah.
So I would say in December, maybe you need to confront something and resolve an issue that's been happening between someone. No, this is not.
Okay, guys. La.
So-
Do you want? Okay. In a natal chart, right? The sun entering Pisces. All right, the sun entering spirituality, the sun entering karma, the sun entering the afterlife. That's luck. That's shining upon what is dark. That's giving strength to the hidden.
That wasn't mentioned in the house. So نحن هون صرنا عم نطلع على characteristics of the planet.
The characteristics of the planet. It's the planet that's entering the house. It's the person, it's the person's energy that's going to another house. Again, think of person, all right? Their money, the person is the sign. The planet is the energy that they're going with. They're entering a house of spirituality, of karma, of, so that's a bright shining light going into your karma, going into your endings, going into your subconscious, shining light on your hidden beliefs.
Yeah, I took the house. I should have taken the planet.
Right? That's one of the things. Difficult, بالعكس, it's a very good entering, right? It's a really good entering. Now let's look at a natal reading, at a progression reading, right? You're looking at the time of Pisces, right? So this is now, let's say, I mean, depending on what month Pisces is in, but Pisces is Feb, depending on, again, you have to look at the lunar chart. In Feb, you're looking at something that's positive, something that you've paid forward, or that you've worked so hard for unopenly, or that you have dreamt of or really aspired to, that's going to happen. You might meet a spiritual path or a spiritual mentor. You might be given advice. You're going to understand a concept that's going to come to you then, that will help you start into a new beginning, because you're going to enter Aries. جبتوا لي واحد كأبني و difficult فوتوني.
I didn't recognize انه like I was looking at the month as January to December, but now I remember that I haven't actually yet learned how to calculate which month, basically.
Approximately, because the lunar calendar changes. There, you cannot study it once. It's every year. Like even
It's a
some
different.
days. If you
Okay.
remember, like you used to do graphics for us, كنا ندق لك نقول لك new moon اليوم يطلع new moon بكرة. So it's, you know, so yeah.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
okay.
Let's look at another one. Let's look at another one. Saturn in house 6. Saturn in house 6.
And I don't remember Saturn. So I'm trying to.
I don't remember Saturn.
Jupiter is the luck planet. Saturn, the ring of Saturn.
IRS.
Oh. Okay, so it's entering house 6, which is health.
Which is
I'm doing the
Who is
natal
doing
one.
the natal chart?
Okay, يلا Wasim, you go.
So Saturn in house 6. Saturn is 2.5 years as a time frame. So when at birth, there's a karmic like the person's gonna be born with something, and it's gonna take 2.5 years for them to resolve it health-wise, maybe complications in health for 2.5 years, or conflicts in health. Who wouldn't apply for work habits, sense of usefulness. Yeah, so I would say, yeah, this would be my natal interpretation.
He wouldn't apply for what?
This would apply for work habits.
Oh,
That go progression. لأني وسيم رح يحكي لها هلا صح. Go for
okay.
progression.
So it's entering 6. Yani that's the month of Cancer around June. Okay, so if karma is gonna hit the health and the fitness and everything, so shakhs is gonna reap what he sowed.
Okay.
So he's gonna reap what he sowed. ما فينا نعرف. It depends what his actions were. And it's karma.
Okay. وسيم ذكرني بليز اني بس لكون انا ومرتك حامل ما نجي لعندك تكون استرولوجر. يرضى عليك. لانه اذا كنا انا وياها حوامل سقطنا بارضنا يعني. شو رح سفقني اول 2.5 سنين ولدك معك. يعني اذا انا كنت حامل سقط. All right? No, really think of, I want you to grasp what you are saying. I want you to really dig now the words you use. Remember, astrology is a language first and foremost. So here something would be like, how are you feeling? Whether it's for both, because Saturn is karma. So you need to know what has come in to know what's going to come out. So whether it is, so you're going to look at this and you're going to say, you know, your son or your daughter or this toddler has a strong sense of organizational and habitual skills. You're going to find that your son is very attached to structure and forms and organizing things. They will have like a sense of usefulness, of purpose. That's how this person is born, right? مش معك. شو معك right. وكمان انت شو بدي اشوف شو بده يجي الله يستر علي.
What about the 2.5 years?
So here you as an astrologer, you will ask like, so do you smoke? Like, are you healthy? Do you follow a healthy lifestyle? Do you exercise? How are your organizational skills? Is your house like a mess? Are you currently moving? What's going on? And then you'll be able to say, well, you know what? Actually, karma is about to hit that house of yours. So perhaps, you know, it's now a good time to pick healthy habits. Now it's a good time to just reorganize your house. If your house is not organized, shuffle some things around, make sure that everything is following a certain structure so that you don't reap the negative impacts of Saturn. in house 6. All right?
Okay, noted.
Okay. ما بعدك انت عم بتضيعي، انت عم بتفوتي على بيت كانسر، بس انت اصلا ما عم تفوتي على بيت كانسر، انت هون عم بتفوت
6 كانسر.
Aries, Taurus, Gemini. Cancer is 6. كيف Cancer is 6 يا مايا؟ ما بعرف كيف المات تبعك يا معاد، اديت لك اياهم. All right. Let's look at now. This is getting harder. Mars and Mercury in house 8. I didn't give you how they are aligned. I'm just telling you that they're in house 8. Mars, Mercury. House 8 is merging, sex, intimacy, shared finances, inheritance, taxes, loans, assets, property, joint ventures, goals, mystery partners, and resources. Mars and Mercury. Scorpio.
So Mars is an angry planet. It's the planet of war. So the energy is impulsive.
Stop. Where is Mars now?
In Scorpio,
So where is it?
in a water sign.
هيدا البني آدم يلي اسمه مارس وين الله حطه؟
بالmergers والacquisitions بhouse 8. شو وين الله حطه؟
No, you're thinking wrong. بلش تقلب معي دراما عن قلبك.
وين حطه؟
وين حطه ببيته. Mars is home, so it's comfortable. Mars is home.
مش حافظة كلهم ده. Okay, Scorpio is
Exactly,
Mars.
Mars is home. انتبهوا، الشخص ببيته هو شو؟
مرتاح already.
مرتاح. Heidi, this is a very important point for you to remember. Guys, again, I really think that alhamdulillah, كتر خير Allah, through the channeling, just understanding this person, energy, home.
جاعدهم person mean.
Okay, let's do it. Let's write it down because we learned by the plan pattern. Please, once and for all, I want you to learn it so that you have it. Okay?
All right.
تكتبيها مثل الأولاد الصغار لا تتذكروها. Yeah.
Person.
Energy or the money إذا بدكم ما بعرف كيف بدكم تقيسوها. Energy, money, light, blessings, karma, whatever. Don't use karma because you'll mix it with something. Okay? عندكم 3 players. The money or the energy, the person, and the house, which correspond to house and house. All right?
Mm-hmm.
The money, the energy is the energy of that planet. Okay? What that planet represents, the energy, the elements, whatever. But it's energy, elements, planet. And the person is the sign.
Okay.
Oh.
So هلا Mars بيت على بيته.
Okay.
Which is in Scorpio.
Yes. Very good.
But it's still an energy of pushing forward.
Okay, it's still an
صح؟
energy of pushing forward. بس هون في نقطة. When you're at home, you can still be very strong, but you're at what?
At مش stagnant. شو بسموه؟ At ease.
Right? بس مثلا تخيلي نفس هيدي البلانت Mars in
Taurus مثلا.
in Taurus, right? It's not at ease because Taurus is a house that's not changing. It's dull. ما في شيء عم بيتغير. So Mars is like shaking it. But
Okay.
Mars is not going to shake its own house because like I'm home. شو بدي shake me. ما أنا عم شيك أصلا. هو اللي هيك عم بيهز وأنا عم بهز.
Mercury is the planet of communication and it's very fast.
Okay.
So I would say that Hone, the push to be more successful, to do more mergers, to push for new work opportunities would be faster for a Scorpio.
Very good. For who?
مش for a Scorpio, sorry, for the person.
Okay, for the person.
Okay. كمان it would affect his sex life.
Okay.
But basically he would be more impulsive to go into new business opportunities.
Okay.
In new relationships كمان and it's about communication.
Okay.
And he will voice it clearer.
Very good. I was looking for that word, which is voice, the communication. And because Mercury is very communicative.
And fast.
So you need to be specific that it's the voice, it's the words. Okay. And that's a what? That's a natal or a
That's a
progression?
natal.
That's a what?
أنا أخذت الناتال.
أنت أخذتي الnatal?
Yeah.
Progression هيدي.
That's a progression reading.
Okay, أنا عندي.
Okay.
Okay.
Wasim, you go for
Natal.
or natal.
So Mars and Mercury in the house of 8 would mean that person is being born in a comfortable family, in a wealthy family, perhaps, and they will have lots of assets, maybe to their name. They would be good in relationships, in intimacy. Mercury, they would maybe be good in sales because Mercury is communication or even communication. And they will be steadfast in the sense that they would be active, taking action. Also like an active personality. Maybe they would do something with money because Scorpio and Mars is in Scorpio are money makers. I don't know. This is what I got.
Actually, this is very, 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 very good. I actually physically have nothing to add to that. I would there's only one segment which I will say that this person will have moments where they're always on top of their game, but they will, in the top of their game, there will be ups and downs that are playing very quickly because of Mercury. Mercury is a fast shifting planet and it blows hot and it blows cold. It blows hot and it blows cold, but it's still, so you're still a millionaire, but you're like a millionaire and a 900,000 and a millionaire and a 900,000, right? You're still successful. You're on top of your game, but there's that element of the thing that also gives that fear to Scorpio that continues, right? Because that's the feeding energy.
Cool.
But that's really well done, Wasim. That was really well done.
Thank you.
Okay. No planets in house 7. So what was house 7? Let's see if you guys remember. Relationships, marriage, contracts,
Libra.
business partners, equality, sharing, interpersonal style. So, Maya, you go. You want to do natal or progression?
Natal.
Natal. So how a person is born.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Without any planet there.
There's no planets there. Think, don't Google.
At the moment I was born, there was no energy there to influence my marriage and relationships. Correct? There was there was no energy, but there was no planet. So there was no energy.
تتصلي في قاعد حدا قدامي يرضى عليك، قاعد واحد قدامك عم تدفع لك $150 او 45 دقيقة وهي قاعدة عم بتقول له شوف هلا ما في energies influencing، زلمة انجلط راح فيها. قال لك قال لك على الناس مش رح يتجوز.
لا, that doesn't mean ما حيتجوز.
So use your words wisely. Speak.
That means it won't come easy.
What won't come easy?
He won't find these things very easily. He needs to do a big shift in his life to acquire this.
Okay. Oh. All right, Wasim, progression.
In a progression chart, this would mean probably that in that specific time, until you move into the next house, I would say.
Hmm?
In that time, there will be a dry, like no relationships, no exchange. There'll be like the person will be alone, maybe by themselves. So there's no interactions. And maybe out of balance a little bit.
Okay. So again, here there are two ways, and this is the paradox of astrology. And I will give you two interpretations that yield the same result, but they sound completely different.
But how is it possible that there's no
That there's no planets? It happens all the time. And it actually could mean sometimes there was years in charts that you could have nothing in house 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they're all aligned somewhere in 11 or 12 for the next 3, 4 years. Yeah, so it could happen. All right. So in the state of emptiness, all possibilities are possible. It means that either you are writing the destiny of that, right? You're either choosing the destiny of that, and you can say like, all the doors are open for you because there's nothing actually written there. No energies impacting you. There's no filters that are impacting you. Or you can literally be like, okay, there is all the energies are impacting you, right? All the energies are impacting you, and you get to choose which one based on what is going to come forward. This is why I gave you the clue, right? Put this up for you, because now you can look at any of those planets coming up soon. And if, let's say, if Mercury was just a little bit underneath that, then you know that in the next 14 days that could change, right? Especially in a progression chart. But let's say Mercury is very far or just past that chart, right? Then you can take a look at, is Saturn, how far is Saturn, how far is Jupiter, right? So if it's Jupiter that's coming up, so in a year's time or in 6 months' time, you will be luck. All right. So look, these things that you can look at, and this is where you can look at. But the emptiness or the absence of the planet is two things, but the two things that are opposite, that are paradoxical, actually yield you to the same destination, the choice. You have everything and you get to choose, or you have nothing, built it up yourself.
Why would you don't have this?
Spiritually speaking, you don't have this because not everything, contrary to what people believe, we're speaking spirituality, which somehow translated into astrology, not everything in your life is written. There are details in the story of your life that are not written. Okay. All right. Any questions? Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mm.
The path of these planets,
Yeah.
when they're rotating كده دايما ورا بعضهم؟
لا مش بالضرورة يكونوا ورا بعضهم، بس they always have the same orbital rotations.
يعني Mercury إذا دايما بنط من Scorpio لPisces دايما هينط من Scorpio.
You're a Pisces, yeah.
بس we need the software تعرف وين كيف بنط.
Hey. Okay. Now, there are three homeworks that I want you to do for next time. Next week, we are going to do this exercise extensively. So the format of the class will be very different. I will have, again, the same questions, but I will do is this time, I'm going to put conjunctions. So I'm going to add conjunctions, all right? So I'm going to give 3 variations, but we're going to do it together. First, I'm going to write conjunction. I'm going to put it in a symbol format, okay? And I am going to perhaps pose the questions, right? So you're going to be able to do what is known as segmented astrology reading, meaning that you know parts by parts, right? This is number one. So that's what we're going to do next week. So make sure that you know the basics of the planets, the elements, and how they are. Please revise them. I'm going to send you right now the PDFs for you to have them. Try not to research independently because you could get opposing information, especially that you need to know this, that actually Abrahamic astrology on the internet is almost non-existent, right? First, the name itself doesn't exist because we coined it. But the second thing is it really is mostly Vedic astrology, right? So that's number one, or Western or solar astrology. So try to focus on these figures before you move on to the other ones. So study from this presentation, study from this recordings, and start to think constantly like this. You don't need to look at the sky right now. The second thing that I want you to meditate on, right, is there is a surah in the Quran, which is called Surah Al-Waqi'ah. There are specific verses that relate to the movement of planets that I want you to meditate on. And I'm going to send you these verses. Okay, I'm going to try to do it today and tomorrow. I'm going to send you these verses and I want you to meditate on them. Meaning I want you to read the verse, close your eyes and just try to visualize it. Try to feel it. I want to see if you guys are going to begin, because like, for example, there's a valid question that you asked, how are the planets rotating? The Quran, there's a verse in the Quran that clearly says, وَكُلُّهُمْ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ. And يَسْبَحُونَ has a specific type of movement that's different from يَهُزُّونَ or يَبْرُمُونَ or whatever. And I want you to begin, because Arabic at the end of the day is a sacred language. I know I'm the dabbah, but at the end of the day, it is a sacred language. So take a look. I want you to begin to feel that transmission that comes through that. I could give you verses from the Zohar, but there's no point because this requires a visual and you don't understand Aramaic. And if I give you the translation, I'm going to be giving you a not complete translation. So use the fact that you guys are Tarbushkun min Lebanon, use that and use the Arabic meditations, okay? The third thing which I want you to do, okay, so the first thing is to study, learn the conjunctions, the planets, the elements, etc. The second thing is meditate on these every day. Choose one of the verses and meditate on it. And the third thing is, which I want you to do without reading it, okay? I want you to pick a crush, right? A crush, someone you like. It doesn't have to be your wife. It can be someone you're crushing on at the moment. We're all crashing somewhere, all right? So pick one such person that you know, that you're so interested in, that you're constantly like drooling over, all right? Take a look at their chart. Don't overanalyze it. Send me the charts and let's see if the interpretation that you guys are going to give to each other matches your crash. All right. So Maya is going to interpret for Wasim. Sarah is going to interpret for whoever. And let's see whether you guys are getting it. But I want you to do the chart reading in the class after you've done the questions. Okay. All right. If we manage to complete all of that, then the week after is going to be a fun class open for questions and answers. And we will just speak about the moon as an energy, which is super easy. And we will speak about specifics of Ibn al-Arabi and his way of defining astrology, which is not, his system is complete, but our understanding of it is incomplete. We can have a class discussion, and that will be the end of this course. All right. If we don't manage to complete all of this next week, then it will be 3 more weeks. Okay. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Can I, are you able to, am I able to share my screen?
Yes. And Maya can see it, but try sharing.
Sorry, one second. I'm going to show you the helical, the model of the planet movements.
Okay. مايا فيكي تيجي بس لتحطي لنا هاي على هاي او تعي بس شوية هون.
I'm disabled to share my screen.
Let me put you as a co-host. I think that will. Can you share now?
Yeah. So here, can let me know when
So
you
this
see
is
it.
the software that you've derived.
No. This is a video of how planets are moving.
Okay.
So this guy
okay.
Nassim Haramein, he came up with a new explanation, basically.
I wonder if he's gonna say.
That's the real, basically.
I love this. What's the small planet like? That's gonna.
It's a helical movement. Helix,
Oh,
like
wow.
the helical movement.
This makes much more sense.
It's a
It
long.
makes
It's like
much more sense.
exactly, because the sun is moving in this video, and our understanding, the sun is stationary.
Yeah.
والspiral movement تبع الplanets.
Do you want me to?
If you want, share the link so that we can share it
Yeah.
with Sarah.
Yeah. So this is basically when I saw this like 4 years ago, I saw this. I was like shocked. I wasn't understanding that all that I learned wasn't really like this was not the it made sense straight away. You know what I mean?
But it's interesting to compare that, right? The formations that can make with the drawings that we will study in week 2 from Abrahamic astrology, which is like, whether they've identified that. Because in Abrahamic astrology, the diagram is completely different. You will see it.
Is always a complete
Circle. Yeah. It's very, very interesting.
I'll send
Thank
it
you
to
for
Maya
sharing
as
that.
well. No problem.
Yeah.
Here, and I'll share it on the House of Wisdom also.
Okay. Any other questions?
Not from me. I'm good.
All right. So please, for next week, I'm going to try to upload this now. Okay. Or Katya will have it uploaded on the website by tomorrow, inshallah. Please, please, please try to study it as it is, as it pertains to now, as soon as you possibly can. Okay?
All right.
All right. See you later.
Thank you for today. Thank you. Bye.